the Minister in charge of fishing and maritime economy. We have been honored when accepting to participate in this panel. All know time is important for an authority, and despite all your busy agenda, you accepted to come over and preside over this panel on sustainable economy and the preservation of artisanal fishing and social and environmental protection. I think this panel will be animated by the resources in the sector. We also have the Executive Secretary of the Association for the Development of Fishing in Africa, who is also among us, Dr. Mohamed Diop, who is the Director of the Prospective Strategy in the Ministry of Finance and Social and Solidarity Economy. I would like to thank all the panelists and myself, Ndiamé, Director of the Microfinance at the level of the ministry, will co-moderate this panel with Mrs. Ouardani, who is a PhD in biological science in Tunisia, at Sousse in Tunisia. Without any further delay, we're going to give the floor back to the Minister who presides over this panel. I would like to thank you. Mr. Ndiaye. I would like to thank Madam Imen Ouardani also, who I pay tribute to on behalf of the government of the Republic. Would like you to be our public analytic resources. But 5 years ago, we got into an era of processing, structurally processing, where our vision with the future exploitation of oil and gas, this blue economy will no longer represent 8.3% of our GDP. It will not generate around 300,000 billion CFAs a year. It will open opportunities with the exploitation of gas and oil. The 15% is the industrial fishing, which also plays an important role for income generation, which is important for our economy. Allow me to greet, by the way, Dr. Senegal, who is an advisor in fishing for the President of the Republic. I called him at 1 o'clock, and he was nice enough to join us and be reassured he would be the one to report to the President on the resolutions that will be taken here at the end of this panel. This artisanal fishing today plays an important role because 500 people work in artisanal fishing, indirect and directly. We have about 25,000 registered boats, 7,000 applications. We have constraints related to the preservation of the resources but also the possibility of making this, which is an important part, habits and represents 68% for our population, the full feed for food for our population. So the scarcity of fish is felt among those households. This artisanal fishing should be preserved. It should be strengthened. And this is the reason why Mr. President has decided to subsidize up to 1 million CFA francs to each engine boat in order to support this artisanal fishing, which was encountering a lot of difficulties related to food, fish, and the availability of the resources, fishing resources. Today, you will certainly see in the press that fish rarefies. It's not rarefied. 10 years ago, there were about 10,000 registered boats. Today, there are 25,000 registered. So what each boat captures will reduce in proportion to the number of boats which are fishing on our coast. The needs in terms of volume, which were enough to feed the population 10 years ago, those needs have increased. And the elasticity of the demand, we are talking about quantitative management, and this need will be more difficult to manage because we don't know the growth, because we have an average of 28 kilograms of fish, and this certainly has effects on the resources available. To this, we should also add, we also have the exploitation of petrol and oil and gas. And the people who exploit those natural resources as a factor that destabilize artisanal fishing. I think this interpretation is not the right one. It could lead to affecting how people understand the sector, and the people who do not have all the means to understand what is happening in the sector or the impact, the negative impact of this gas and oil and gas exploitation, discussing creating system. We should stand in front of change of paradigm, because this product, and it's important that it has on our nutrition and even on the country's economy, should lead us to have the right analysis of the processes. We should create what we can call a middle product aquaculture, pisciculture. If I take the example of China, 1 billion people, Korea, 55 million people, for 1 million tons of production, fish production, Egypt. Countries have been very early aware that the middle product can play the same role at the economic and social level. This, our government, and African governments, were lagging behind in relation to aquaculture, and this is the reason why among the 25 important projects of Senegal Emergent Plan, the plan on which the president has set up the Senegalese economy for these 20 coming years, were instructed as objectives as the sectoral policy for aquaculture to become, in these 5 coming years, as a priority step To avoid going any further, we are 5 of us, and we only have 1 hour for this panel. I am available to answer any questions that you would like to ask, but also to give time to other people, technicians whose competence is no longer needed for demonstration, will give their ideas on this topic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Minister, for this interesting intervention, which demonstrates once again, to give meet the needs of the people who live on those resources. Without any delay, I should give the floor to our panelists, and at the end, we'll open the debate to take your questions and have an interaction with our guest. You will tell us about sustainable blue economy, fishing, etc. Over to you. Mr. Minister, good afternoon, dear guest. You wanted to take the floor and complete. I said complete because what the minister has said reflects very faithfully the performances of the government, who does not spare any effort for sustainable fishing in the country. Speaking on behalf of the social dialogue on fishing, this committee who met we have met the standards. We had 10 tons for 20%, but now we have a different ratio. So this dialogue is important, and to have this national committee in order to involve them in the formal activity, fishing activity. I'll just give you a perspective of the blue economy, which is not understood well enough by some Senegalese who lay the emphasis on the economy. The blue economy on the resource management, the marine and maritime activities, naval construction, aquaculture, maritime transport, gas and oil, tourism, coastal tourism have a strong potential for job creation and growth. But the conditions of exploitation of those resources should take into account some ecological parameters which are taking more and more importance with climate change. But the sea being a fundamentally open space, it is organized by a certain amount of international law that protect those resources and the circulation of people on the ocean. The exploitation of the coastal area will require knowledge based on many disciplines. Senegal is aware of the considerable potential that represents the fishing sector and the blue economy. The implementation of a professional environment liable to allow modern management, development of the blue economy in Senegal in search for better living conditions abroad. Strategy in fishing requires stand fishing of people with important growth in the value chain of the sector related to commercialization, processing, etc. The lack of qualified staff remains a hurdle to that development, and the issue that have been review the fishing country, the realization of a diagnosis of type of accidents in the sector, and the implementation of a monitoring mechanism on land, on sea, and on professional diseases. And to that, we need to encourage the participation of actors on legislation on fishing and on the national legislation, the code, Maritime Code, and the Convention of the Rights of the Law, the 1982 Montevideo Convention, which requires some exclusivity, some fishing areas, in addition to the standard more sustainable management of the resources, parted convention, the formalization of the activity in the informal fishing activity, conventions on the people working at sea, in this context of oil and gas exploitation. All these, and the international labor coordinator of the social dialogue, fishing, agriculture, and offshore resources. This, we feel very clearly in your speech that you are really the national coordinator, because you talked about dialogue, you talked about diagnosis, sectoral diagnosis. You also talked about one advocacy to carry out on work accidents that can happen for all the stakeholders in the area. You also talked about the women who process the fish, and you also talked about a monitoring mechanism, which is important because the government has also put in place an important report and monitoring. And in monitoring, you talked about the application of the ministerial code and the decree that organizes all the stakeholders working in artisanal fishing. And we take it as an advocacy. We know you are used to working with the minister, and we know that his team has taken note of what you have said. And in the light of the existing document, traded services of the government would carry out a better monitoring of the process. Now giving the floor to Mr. Mohamed Diop, the Director of Strategy and Perspective at the Microfinance Ministry.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre.
Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished the floor when the specialists are economy and solidarity economy and the fishery sector, for example. This is like a sustainable blue economy, preservation of small-scale fisheries, creation of new sustainable jobs, social and environmental protection. So blue economy is a new economy. Fishing as part of the development of aquaculture, production of marine and littoral environment. We have maritime transport. The minister earlier talked about oil and gas. So development of port infrastructures. So these are key sectors of blue economy. So the issue at stake here is how do we move through a sustainable blue economy and how do protection. Effective and efficient manner. So sustainable resources can contribute on small scale in Senegal. So fisheries generate 500,000 direct and indirect jobs, and this is important. And maybe 90% of these jobs so derive from small scale fishing. So fisheries account for 50% of the active population, which is also of the primary GDP, and I stand to be corrected by the minister and fisheries specialists, and 3.2% of the national GDP. Senegal is 700 to coast industrial fishing is supplying processing units that have an important share in fishery products. So small-scale fishing, like processing, is a high potential sector, especially among women. One of the main challenges today is to promote this sector via optimal industrialization, and this will help to create more jobs and will reduce the deficit of the commercial balance, basically. And this will have an impact on exports, as rightly pointed out in the Senegal's emerging plan, which is the blueprint for social and economic policy. This transformation, structural transformation, which we all refer to, should actually be built on SSE, and this is important, social and solidarity economy. In other words, we need to be able to reposition the economy in the society, because speculative capital has shown its limitations and consequences at the social level. Let me take the example of the informal sector, which I talked about. It's 96.3% of economic units in Senegal are in the informal sector. Actors of the popular economy, like street vendors, those that are in fishing, etc. Today, these popular groups are developing strategies at the local level, and they guarantee the satisfaction of the basic needs or material needs. But what should be noted is that these popular groups develop collective organization strategies which are in line with better cooperation in the work. So this is an observation. We're going to see some mechanics associations, and there are some social practices. Today we have a big role to play in that, like CCA. How do we support these actors to better structure? How do we support them? This is SSE is very important for these actors of popular economy, and these are actors of the informal sector, and this should be mentioned. So social and solidarity economy plays a crucial role, that is to promote a local development environment which is more equitable and sustainable. Local development economy. So this is the place for interaction, and this will now. It is about the capacity of actors to get organized, and this is important. Today, SSE is playing this role, that is allowing a local development. SSE helps to bring answers on challenges around employment. SSE crisis, financial economic crisis that I cycle. SSE is a strength to address structural issues, because it is capable of questioning the systemic factors by promoting new forms of production, exchange, and transformation. This is today a cross-cutting sector which make it possible to put in place new forms of production and consumption. Its role is to guarantee to the workers of informal sector other forms of jobs that are not conventional. A social protection regime. Today we have the role of health associations, which is responsible of microfinance and social and solidarity economy in the process to promote and supervise actors, because these documents open a lot of benefits like access to financial services. Today the ministry can put in relation actors of function. So there is financing women and young people projects. Today we have public mechanisms that are put in place. So SSE, this ministry can actually draw this nexus to allow actors of popular economy, actors of social and solidarity economy to benefit from adapted funding, and this is important.
Pouvoir accéder aussi aux institutions en charge de la protection sociale.
So we have to set in place a specific fiscal regime. Today, if you have an agreement issued by the Ministry of Finance, if it is a cooperative or SS, social and solidarity association, you can work with the Ministry of Economy and Finance in order to put in place this system. We also have the procurement code, which is a major breakthrough, and which provides like 5% of the annual budget of public procurement should be handed to national SMEs and SSE actors. So this is a major breakthrough. We also talked about the necessity to have tools and instruments towards the transition towards a blue economy. You also showed the importance of working on an integrated ecosystemic approach. Let me move directly and give the floor to the public. Above energy page will actually show less output. But still, today, so women active in processing do not have products in order to feed local population. And this is to say that there is no more. This is not good because access is not really controlled. We also need to try and put in place biological rest period. So socio-economically speaking, it's very sensitive. You cannot close the fishing as it is the case in Mauritania, for example. I see that there was an order which has been issued to ban nightly fishing. All these are means to reduce the fishing efforts. So this is a good technique to increase production and to allow the fish to have habitats and renew themselves. On job creation, since we are calling for a reduction of fishing efforts, it would not be possible to create jobs by giving fishing meals, but we need to think about working on the subsector of processing and promotion of products, processing techniques, because what is being done traditionally with our mothers that are in the fisheries that should be able to come and work in the sector. Therefore, there is need to modernize processing techniques at the level of small-scale fisheries. Now, basic unions, I think we talked about it this morning, we can put in place solidarity calabash, which will allow the sea leaving the fishery sector, because this sector is no longer attractive. We need to make sure that those that are active in the sector do not leave, and if they do not leave, it's because they find the sector attractive indeed. Thank you for your kind attention.
Merci, merci Monsieur Simple.
Before giving the floor to the audience, I would like to summarize your presentation. Let me start by the last point, the importance to support or to integrate women in the blue economy sector. Now, with regard to putting in place resources, providing resources for the conservation of biodiversity, and as I just said earlier on, the equation which is difficult to address between the preservation of biodiversity, the preservation of present jobs, but also developing future jobs. On this, I give the floor to the public. I open up to the public to get any questions. I don't know if among you there is anyone that have questions to our panel members. Bonjour. Good afternoon, each and everyone. Thank you for this excellent panel on blue economy. My question is to find out, with regard to the comment by the minister on aquaculture, which is a pillar which is in the PSE program. Now, my question is to find out if there is a mechanism that the Senegal is developing alongside its partners, so that this aquaculture sector or activity be a sustainable solution. Very soon we'll have the exploitation of oil and gas. So the scarcity of small-scale fishing is a reality today. But if the government, talking with donors and its partners, so that this aquaculture sector be completely satisfied in the future. Let me collect all questions and then I'll give you the floor to answer. Good afternoon, everyone. I wish to thank the panel members and the moderator. I had a question on the consideration of a context element which is important, that's climate change. Climate change, when we talk about conservation of biodiversity, we know that climate change is already a threat to biodiversity in addition to other problems. Recently, with the result of GSEF, we see that the fact that oceans are warming and that there is an acidification of oceans, we note that there is a migration of some species like towards temporal latitudes, and these are tropical regions that actually face strong impact at this level. With this climate change dimension taken into consideration in policies, I think we cannot dissociate sustainable development and climate change. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon, Yannick. I'm coming from the Guyana, South America. I have listened Thank you for welcoming us. We have a five-strong delegation. Thank you to panel members and the moderator. I have a question on legal fishing. Do you have any issue with legal fishing on your territory? Because you have a lot of issues with the issue of illegal fishing. The second question has to do with mangrove. I understand that there are some resources organized around mangrove with women, and we have a lot of mangrove in Guyana. And I would like to find out what is the management of mangrove on your territory. How do you organize that? And what is the economy we can draw from this? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madam Ndiamé. I'm the Deputy Mayor of the City of Dakar, responsible for Fisheries and Maritime Affairs. I should like, first of all, to thank all panel members that are present. And before anything, I would like to have an advocacy for industrial fishing actors. To the attention of the Minister, I met people from the fishing sector, and during the first reunion I was there, but they have a lot of problems, including, actually they think that the collective convention of 1976 and the 2002 law is not in their favor. They are absolute laws, and therefore they would like an improvement of their working conditions, which are very difficult. So my advocacy would be, at the city of Dakar, we are limited, as Mr. Diop said. Fishing is not a shared competence, and they need their working condition to be improved through capacitation, training, but also they need social, they need medical coverage, health coverage, and with regard to their retirement, we also need to improve their training with the offshore oil and gas. We realize that more than 2,000 marine agents are unemployed, jobless. They want to migrate, they want to leave industrial fishing and move on to offshore. But a lot of problems have to do with training. Honorable Minister, if you can support all these agents, especially taking care of health coverage or training. Now, on small-scale fishing, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Diop have summarized everything. I would just add that in Senegal, we realize that we have overfishing. Many fishing licenses have been granted, while, as the Minister said, needs have increased. Therefore, we need to review these license aspects, and that's the reason why fish is getting scarce and scarce. The other aspect has to do with climate change, because we have a performing fishing. Senegal is open to the ocean. We are the second fish producer in West Africa, and we export a lot of fish. So we need to review our way of practicing fishing through biological recovery, and that way we can improve aquaculture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all of you. My name is Mamadou. I'm the Secretary of the Cooperative if I just wanted to bring two contributions and one question, please. Just to say that the relationship between the SSE and informal economy. SSE is the bridge to formalize our informal economies. It's a need which is there. The workers feel they make recourse to associations in order to satisfy that need. That need is at the economic level because they cannot have access to the necessary credit for their activities. The second need is a social one related to social protection. Their health problems, they don't know how to solve them. And more the people thought of health insurance, but this came from the actors. So I believe the government should review the services which are offered by the medical insurance systems because the need is always there. Social protection is on 2 to 3 pillars: health, retirement, and another pillar, which is a primary needs, income very clearly. So it's through those needs that the question is raised, that the people who work in the informal sector have to get together in social enterprises, first of all. So, no, that time is limited. I just wanted to talk about the women who transform in the blue economy. They process the fish. They are from St. Louis to the Cap, from north to south, and more the working conditions are not as good. And so this is also something that you should be contributing in, and they no longer need small credits. They need credits that can enable them to have small industrial units. And my question to Mr. Diop, the licenses are always done in the Ministry of Agriculture or in the Finance Ministry. I think those licenses are about savings and organizations, but they still have their applications sent to the Ministry of Agriculture. So this disruption is to be taken out. We're very sorry, we've lost a lot of time. So I'm going to give the floor for you to answer the questions. You have 1 minute each. 1 minute, one single minute. So thank you very much for the question that you've asked. On the question of aquaculture, it's better now in application to the aquaculture code. We would like to go further in response to the implementation of the platforms, which are the conservation of fish. We have to develop marine pisciculture, aquaculture. So there are systems which are developed. As for mangroves, the mangrove initiative came from the collaboration of fishing actors in the Oceanium. And the first one, Bamboo, who came from the representatives and the fishermen in the Sinsalem region. They are aware that it is necessary to reconstruct or repopulate. We think we need to have adaptations to climate change that the fishing sector knows, a national platform for adaptation to climate change led by the fishing actors and supervised by the ministry. we are now having meeting in the regions in Boer in order to find out the strategies to fight against salinization, water rising. We are victims of those of scourge, ecological victims, which should be considered as in priority as the beneficiaries of the compensation lost and prejudices. We articulate the environmental dimension to the fishing dimension, because we are reviewing all the maritime conventions, because we are the one that has the most important number of conservation codes on artisanal fishing, industrial fishing, on biodiversity, on the fishing. They have national dialogue committee, and we have a school which is one of the best in Africa. Now we are under the threat of the ACP convention for the industrial fishermen who come over, bring about workers on the ACP Marine Convention, and the ministry had put in place a certain number of provisions for fishermen in collaboration with the Maritime Agency, to have staff that are trained and qualified and based on the needs for training of the people. So we take into account that observation to take it as a priority solution to provide to that issue. Thank you very much. Very briefly, on aquaculture, we still have a certain number of problems. In Senegal, we only have two opportunities, solutions. Fish, we are very strong in tilapia, in catfish. We also have the issue how to feed those fish, because it's no longer acceptable to use fish to feed other animals when the population do not have enough to feed food for fish. Climate change, Mamadou Diop talked about. As for the Imen fishing, we invite the authorities to increase the surveillance methods, because if we invest hundreds of billions because of the illegal fishing, I think the government should commit as the government should take credit in order to increase surveillance instead of leaving those illegal fishing boats taking our fish. So for industrial fishing, we no longer want that. We want the efforts to be increased. We are even carrying out advocacy for the small fish to be exclusively reserved for the national stakeholders, artisan, craftsmen, fishermen, local industries, because we don't want Mamadou and myself to find a friend coming from another country, become Senegalese and take our fish and take it away. We suffer from that, and this has to come to an end. Thank you very much. As for the licenses, the formalization of the cooperative companies, depending on the Minister of Agriculture, it's the ministry who manages this. On the issue of the savings and license, if you have an ISS license, you are entitled to support, and this is the answer that I wanted to give regarding the license. We have come to the end of this session. We have time constraints. I leave the concluding remarks to the Minister to answer some questions and close this session. Thank you very much, Madam. I don't know if in the public the people have the same feeling, but for the speakers, we have a lot of problems to hear and understand some questions. The speakers are too loud, or the sound is not of quality. But we have to do with it. So we're going to summarize, to give a summary of the answers that I would like to provide. There was a question relative to aquaculture. Mr. Thioune and Mr. Samba shared a very strong message, and we'll talk about these enterprises that would be making fish from the processing plants to use as raw materials, some authorization, and most of that wealth which was supposed to serve as food for the population, when they can be consumed still, and in the sub-regional fishing committee, where that country is a member, we really discussed very seriously that issue to harmonize our internal policies in order to fight against that scourge, which is more harmful, devastating. Climate change, you said, and the governance system is based on consensus and not on votes, because the countries, member countries who are suffered the most are more, they are in larger numbers than the initiators, than those who are in charge of the governance of the entity. Getting back to the issue on aquaculture, today, Mr. President has decided that Siju would be an aquaculture hub. And geographically speaking, it's a part of the country which is irrigated, and another part which has got a river. So marine aquaculture, as Mr. Thioune said, and in cool water, in the some water basin, we could use the Casamance River in order to set up and develop all our expectations placed in the region in terms of agricultural development. And this is the reason why in mid-June, we've got an official visit in the Oman Sultanate, and about around July 10th, we just this morning had a confirmation on my phone that I will be showing you at the end of this exercise, that the invitation of the largest Chinese enterprise, whose president will be part of that delegation on that official visit starting the 11th of this month. The Chinese delegation, led by the chairman of their National Assembly, and the other part of the president of China will be in China. They produce 550,000 tons of fish a year. And I think we learned from their experience. Discussions have been underway for some time. And today, we got the confirmation that the representative, that Senegal was eligible to accommodate the foreign investment on agriculture. I see that there is pressure on me from our colleague. We talked about the collective convention, which has become obsolete, and we are going to invite for discussions on the collective convention not on fishing, but also on the auxiliary peripheral sectors on maritime transformation in order to have a global view and review of the sector, training, social coverage, biological recovery, recovery that we initiated, and we thought we should be deciding that between July and August, a total recovery. But there seems that, according to some experts, I'm not one of them, who are in the crowd and who believe that each species has their specific recovery, biological period, biological. So when we decide a general biological recovery, thinking that it would apply to 250 species, that will only apply on one species. So we need to carry out more research in order to better understand the relevance in the period and the targeted species, working conditions in women working in processing fish. We have it on our heart, and the $500 million investment that was done in the Thames in Joal has made us believe that this model should be duplicated and to enable women for the Senegalese processed product to be labeled in order to be commercialized internationally. Thanks, Mr. Minister. Thank you to all the audience. Thank you very much.